Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome to another edition of This Brother Can Fly. Now, we're about to go to the airport because, yes, I'm going to be able to fly. I looked at the METAR. There's no winds. The clouds are definitely dispersed, so it's time for another flight lesson. But before I begin, I definitely want to do a subscriber shout out. And this one is going to be a little different. I haven't talked about one of the things that I did in my past, just because, I wanted to separate this activity from that one. But what the heck, it was a great opportunity and something that I definitely enjoyed, even though I struggled a little bit with it. But I got this amazing shout out from these folks at Once Upon an Island. They are one of my subscribers, and they are some awesome folks. They definitely reached out and really helped me out on, trying to get some exposure to the channel. So thank you, Once Upon an Island, for your subscription. Okay, so what makes this subscriber shout out so interesting is that now my worlds are colliding, because at one point I wore one of these and had a very miraculous experience. Actually, two. It was amazing. And so I definitely wanted to give a subscriber shout out to Once Upon an Island. They're part of the Survivor world. It's an interesting family that I belong to. I am proud to say that I belong to it. And I thank you, Once Upon an Island, for reaching out, for being so supportive. I hope people support your channel as well. Thank you for supporting mine. And I will say that Survivor was one of those situations where it definitely inspired this endeavor. After doing that, and even all that happened, I feel like there's really nothing I can't do. And so when I thought about becoming a pilot, probably prior to that experience, I might not have really taken myself seriously in terms of really doing this endeavor. But after that and surviving, no pun intended, all of that, I have no problem getting myself up in an airplane. All right, so thank you, Once Upon an Island. Now it's time to get the heck out of here. Survivors ready? I guess I shouldn't say that. That might be trademark. Inspection complete. Doors and windows closed and latched. Mine is closed and latched.
So, all right. So this is where you turn it like a normal key, right? Normal car key. Hold it there until you feel it coming in, and then once it comes in, all the way in.
Okay. So it looks like I'm going to have to do a lot of voiceover work again, because it's, unfortunately I don't fly consistently enough, and I hope the weather begins to cooperate, because I keep pulling this cord out of our headphones so you can't hear the back camera where that is hooked to our headphones. So I'm going to have to do some voiceover stuff here. So this is my fourth lesson. And as you can see, I have a new instructor, and he is, really trying to, we're going really step by step, going through the basics. As you saw in the last video, we really worked on a checklist. So in this video, what you're going to see is I really asked him during this flight, hey, let's start from the basics. I want to make sure I understand all of the instruments. I want to understand what's happening at each of the phases of flight. So right now we're just taxiing out to the runway, and we're about to take off. And I really wanted to get a feel for, what I was supposed to do, what kind of rudder input that I'm supposed to have on takeoff, because when you power up an airplane, for those people who aren't, taking lessons or aren't aviators themselves, the plane tends to turn to the left, and there's a number of forces that causes that to happen. So I really wanted to focus on, dealing with those left turning tendencies with good right rudder input. So I'll just let the takeoff get ready to happen. One of the things that I did this time as well is I powered up while I was on the brakes so that I could get a feel for what the plane was doing, what the instruments were doing. Then I let the brakes go, and here we go, taking off. Now, the one thing I really liked about this takeoff is I didn't yank the yoke back. If you noticed, just before I started talking, I really eased the yoke back so that the plane would just kind of come off of the runway once we hit what we call your rotation speed, which just means you're going from not flying and rotating to a state where the plane is flying. And so last couple times I was so nervous and so preoccupied in my mind with, oh crap, I'm flying an airplane, that I really just yanked the yoke back and the plane just kind of jumped off the runway, and then that just freaked me out. So I really tried to stay mindful of, doing all of my movements nice and smooth. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. And as you can see, my CFI is really working with me the way I asked them to. Looking at the attitude indicator, looking at my vertical speed indicator, how fast am I climbing, looking at my turn coordinator, which makes sure all the planes, the different planes of the airplane are coordinated so that the tail isn't catawonkus with the wings and that kind of stuff. So that's what's going on here, and I'm really trying to focus and concentrate on really piloting the plane rather than the plane piloting me. So one of the things I liked about this new CFI is he was very patient with me, because a couple times I kept asking the same questions over and over and over again. Like, okay, wait, this doesn't have suction. Where's the suction again? It's the vacuum. There's a vacuum gauge as opposed to the suction gauge in this plane. The one that I normally fly, Quebec Sierra, is different from Echo Romeo in that this plane has some fairly sophisticated avionics. So if you look, see those two blue screens right there off to the, you'll be able to see it once we get back to that shot. But those are like GPS units, and there's VORs, and I don't know how any of that work yet, so that gets to be a little bit complicated. But this plane has a suite of much more complex avionics, and so I really wanted to try to understand just my basic six-pack, altimeter, things like that. So if you see my eyes, I'm looking down, I'm looking out, I'm looking down. That's the other thing that I'm trying to really get a handle on, is really working on doing both. Not being too much inside the airplane and not being too much outside the airplane. And being comfortable with, quickly scanning my instruments, making sure I'm scanning outside the plane for traffic. The cool thing about this flight is because it was such a great day to fly, there were a lot of airplanes in the sky, and unfortunately you don't get to hear the audio of some of the communication between the planes, but there were a lot of folks out there. So I really wanted to have a good mix of inside and outside the plane. The other thing is really trying to work my checklist. Even after you take off, you have a checklist. When you're cruising, you have a checklist. Checklists are very important. I want it to be like a thing I can do in my sleep. Why? Because that's what makes you a good pilot. Now you may have realized that I just relinquished complete control of the airplane to my CFI. And just in case, you don't remember from any of my previous videos, CFI just stands for Certified Flight Instructor. So my instructor is now flying the plane. I am not. All the other flying I did myself, but he is now flying the plane. One of the things that I wanted to ask him was, how to prepare for landing. And so that's what we're doing. So I believe here we are turning final to the runway. And I wanted him to do it so I could watch, get a feel for what the engine was doing, the instruments, what the glide slope was like. Landing is definitely difficult. And so I really wanted to understand what the instruments were doing, what kind of flaps he had in, what he was doing in terms of his airspeed, things of that nature. So as you can see, the runway is coming up and we're about to land, and I'll be quiet so we can just let this landing happen. Okay, so thank you for flying with me again. This was my fourth flying lesson, and I will say that this lesson was cool from the standpoint that I really got to see what was happening during landing. Amount of flaps, glide slope, all of that kind of stuff. I got to really see the landing light system for the the runway. There's these two lights. If it's two white lights next to each other, you're too high. If it's two red lights next to each other, it's called red over red, you're dead, you're probably gonna crash. But I got to really see the red over white. So I really focused on flying and instrumentation. So I'm only 4 lessons in. I still got a lot to learn, but this flight I think taught me a ton. And so I definitely really enjoyed it. And I want to fly more. So thank you for flying with me again. Okay, thank you for watching another episode of This Brother Can Fly. Nice and comfortable. I'm at home. I'm actually trying to do some editing and get this video cooked and uploaded and all that kind of stuff. It was a great flight. The air was so smooth. And I really tried to do a lot of things. I tried to watch my vertical speeds. I really tried to watch my turn coordinator. I really tried to fly the airplane. Still got a long way to go. There's a lot that I still don't understand. And the whole rudder inputs during takeoff and landings and turning, the ball was all over the place. My CFI kept saying to me, step on the ball, step on the ball. But I'm gonna get there. And with your help and support and your continued subscriptions and comments and all that kind of stuff, this will keep the journey going. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I love the support. Send me all kinds of different input and questions and anything like that. All right, take care. Thank you so much. Can you talk, dude? It's amazing how tongue-tied I get. Anyway, this brother can fly. I'm out. Peace.